Welcome to Small Arms Solutions. Today we're looking at the HK45C, also known as the MK24 Mod O pistol. Now, before we really get into what the HK45C is, we need to go back in time a little bit. We need to go back in time to the formation of SOCOM and what weapons were being used at the time. There were two primary pistols that were being used. Now, by the Navy, they had a preference for the SIG P226 or the MK25 pistol. This was the most commonly used by the SEALs. However, we also had other SOCOM units that were other branches who did utilize the M9 pistol. And then we did have other people, such as the Marine Corps, special operations guys, who still used the antiquated M1911. This was a whole different story, which you're interested in that. You can take a look at the video on the Colt M45A1. So enough with the 1911. We're going to talk about these other ones that are more relevant. You'll see on the SIG 226 you have a decocking lever on the left-hand side for decocking, and this would be a lot integrated into the muscle memory of the Navy SEALs utilizing this pistol. And of course, the Marine, the Army, a lot of Special Forces Delta guys would prefer to use the M9 pistol. Now, the whole reason why the Navy went with the SIG 226 is because of the issues they had early on with the slides breaking. However, those slides breaking were not unique for as far as the ammunition that were being used. The same ammunition that broke slides on this one cracked frames on this one. So both pistols had negative reactions to the high-pressure ammunition that was being used by the original pistols. But anyways, they decided they were going to go with Mark 25. Now, at that time, it was in the calm of the Cold War. The U.S. was not in any combat at the time, so the special operations guys got really used to the light recoil and the high magazine capacity of the 9mm. They weren't really being utilized in combat, but they liked the lightweight. They liked the fast follow-up shots. They liked the accuracy that they were having with the SIG and the Beretta, depending on which units you were with. That all changed with the oncoming of the global war on terror. But even prior to that, when SOCOM came all under one umbrella, one of the first programs they had was called the Offensive Handgun Weapon Program, which is what we see right here, the MK23 Mod O pistol. Now, what was interesting about this project was SOCOM took a look at what was being used throughout the services for as far as combat handguns. And there was like over 30 different handguns that were in inventory, which, as you can imagine, is a logistical nightmare because they could buy what they wanted. Now, the individual operators didn't buy what they wanted, but the units bought what they wanted. So you'd have revolvers, you'd have different manufacturers of pistols. It was, for as far as anybody who was in charge of an armory, it was a complete nightmare. The MK23 did everything that it was put in the requirements, and those requirements were very heavy duty. If you look at the mean rounds between failures, this gun was second to nothing in the world for means round between failures. It utilized both 230 grain subsonic ball as well as 185 grain jacketed hollow points. And it was the service life that was required on it was absolutely incredible. The barrel, there are some modifications that were made, which we're going to go over that in a minute. Now, problem with the MK23 was nothing due to the pistol itself. This pistol, as I said, did everything that it was supposed to do, which included accuracy. And one of the things that made this pistol extremely accurate was, as you see here, you'll see a rubber O-ring on the barrel. What that did was it made sure when the pistol would lock up, it would lock up the same way every time, which also increased accuracy. You have a chrome-plated polygon barrel on here. So you get the best of both worlds. Cold hammer forged polygon barrel plus chrome plating. The finish you see on here, this is the original finish. It looks more like a black lacquer. This was designed as a DuPont finish that was designed to be on so this pistol could go on the hip of a Navy SEAL in salt water and it wouldn't rust. Most of the internal parts were all nickel-plated to prevent rusting in that kind of environment as well. So you also had an internal recoil reduction mechanism, which made this thing extremely light recoiling due to the fact that it has dual spring in the inside of it. And all the controls were set up just as was required. You have a cock and lock. You have a decocker. And you can only engage the safety when the hammer's in the cock position. 12-round magazine, ambidextrous. So, pistol did everything that it was supposed to do. Well, when it got into the operator's hands, it was just too big. And unfortunately, they often sat in the armories because they just didn't want them because they were too big. They were used to these smaller 9mm pistols, the 15 shots that were smaller and lighter. The success of the pistol had nothing to do with itself. It was the fact that the operators did not want anything that heavy. So what happened was they still wanted to go with a modern 45 caliber pistol. So what they did was they went to another HK pistol, which you see here is the HK45 Tactical. Now, there was two of these. There was a compact and there was a full size. And what you see here is the full size. Basically, what you had was all the features of the Mark 23 in a smaller, lighter package. So if you look, this is a black ring, but you have the same black ring on there for your ability to have that accuracy with the slide closing the same way every time. You had the same recoil reduction mechanism that made this thing impervious to high-pressure ammunition. You didn't have to worry about plus P ammunition breaking like the 1911s did. You had a little bit of a different safety system on here. You had a lever here, which was a decocker, as well as a manual safety. You could have this cocked and locked, or you could carry it decock safety off or decock safety on. So you could carry it any which way that you would want. You still had the larger trigger guard. You had a match grade trigger, which had an adjustable travel on it. And you had the same 12-round magazine, but it was much, much smaller. And then you had the HK45C, which was even a smaller version, which was also easily concealed. So those were being bought as well, those two guns. Now we're going to go forward to 2009. 2009, the U.S. had a military joint service pistol program, which was to replace the M9 pistol with a .45 caliber handgun. Now, unfortunately, that was canceled, and all the manufacturers who had guns they put into it was done. But one of the guns that was put in was the HK45, which is what you see here. This is the compact version. Now, the history of the HK45 is pretty interesting. It goes back to years before. Many of you are familiar with Larry Vickers. He's a former Delta operator who's done a lot of work with H&K. And he's also very well known as being a 1911 guy. And he had approached H&K about making a 1911. Well, at the time that he talked to H&K about that, they weren't opposed to it, but they had too many military programs going on to even take it on. So then when they were ready to start looking at it again, they decided that they were not going to make a 1911 because there were too many people out there that were doing it. But they agreed to make a new handgun that was based on their own systems that would do exactly what Mr. Vickers wanted it to do. So Mr. Vickers got together with Ken Hackathorn. Many of you guys know him as one of the top firearms instructors in the industry for law enforcement military. And the two of them went to work with H&K USA and HK Germany to come up with a new pistol. Larry wanted to have some 1911 in it, and HK wanted their advanced features in it. So what we have here is a combination of the HK USP with a P2000 grip style. And the way the grip is on it feels like much more that of a 1911. So you get that more familiar feel, which Larry preferred with the 1911. Some of the benefits of the new pistol, again, you have the variants. This would take the same 10 variants that you would have with the USP. So you have this, the variant 1 with the safety and decocker. You could have variant 3, which would be a decocker only. You could have a carry cocked and locked. You could do literally whatever you wanted with it. You also had grip modularity of the P2000 as well. As you can see from the back here, you're able to, by popping a pin out here, you can change the back straps to whatever your hand size is. For me, I would go with the larger ones due to the fact that I have really large mitts. And they wanted a more ergonomic grip. The HK USP, as you can see, is far more blocky than what you see on the HK45. Now, this is when it comes into a little bit of personal preference. I have to say I prefer the feel of the USP. I don't know why. I definitely can see why somebody would like the the HK45 better, but for some reason I like the USP. I have big hands, so it was never a problem for me the way that it felt. But that's just a matter of your opinion, what you like better. Which one is better, who knows? But this had the feel that they wanted. You can see we have some good texturing on the front and on the back, so the thing's not going to slide out of your hand. The barrel was threaded, so you could utilize the sound suppressor. You had night sights on it. You also had an improved magazine release. The magazine held 8 to 10 rounds, depending on which one you put in it. This happens to be a 10-round magazine here. It did hold 2 less rounds than the USP. Now, something else that it did that the HK USP did not have is it gave it an ambidextrous slide stop, so you have both left and right sides. And another addition was the addition of the forward slide serrations, which you have in the front here. Now, this is something else that, depending on who you are, whether you like it or not, some people, they're only going to use it from the back here. Some people like it from the front, having the ability to do whatever you want. Some of you guys who train, you like press checks after you load it. You like to pull back to make sure there's a cartridge case in there in case you can't use a live cartridge indicator on the side. So I think it's certainly worth having there. It has no negative aspects about having it there. So if you like it, use it. If you don't. Now, on the bottom, we have a mil standard 1913 rail. as opposed to HK's universal rail. Now, you also have to understand when this pistol came out, it was pretty much pre-1913 rail. 1913 rail didn't come out until 95. And these made their presence probably around 92, 93 in that era. So it was prior to the release of the standard 1913 rail. So that was certainly an update on it. This pistol here does not have the true sights that were put on it. It was referred to as Super Luminova. Basically what that is a paint. It's a luminous paint that they have on the front sights, where you would take your mag light or your LED light, give it a quick hit on the front and rear, and it'll give you a bright sight for several hours. You would have the illumination. It's not radioactive, and it doesn't die out like the tritium with its half life. This pistol actually has tritium on it, so it's a little different from the original one. And as we showed, you do have the rubber O-ring on here for the accuracy. Now, the original HK45 was the full-size pistol. It weighed 27 ounces. It had an overall length of 8 inches. The barrel was 4.4 inches, a width of 1.9 inches, and a height of 5.7, and a mag capacity of 10 rounds. The HK45C, which we have here, is a little bit lighter, 25 ounces versus 27. Overall length was 7.2 inches instead of 8. And the barrel length was 3.9 inches instead of 4.4. The width was the same at 1.9. The height was 5.7 on the full size and the compact 5.1. And as we spoke earlier about the magazines, the original full-size HK45 had 10 rounds, and the HK45C either took a 8 or a 10-round magazine. So really when SOCOM was looking at the HK45 compact pistol, by having the more compact pistol, you would take up all your goodies, all your modules and your suppressor, and you had a pistol that you could actually conceal versus some of these larger ones. So there was a lot of benefits to going with a smaller version. The combat-proven 45 auto caliber, there's been a lot of testing that has been done on these pistols by Larry and by some other writers as well. There's been well over 10,000 rounds. I think there was one writer who did it. I'm not sure exactly how many rounds those were, but it was done quite a bit. It utilizes the standard short recoil Browning linkless type locking system. So now we're going to go forward to 2011. In 2011, the U.S. Navy adopted the HK45C as the replacement for the Mark 23 as the new Mark 24 Mod O. Now, the variant that SOCOM chose was version 3, and the version 3 would mimic the Sig Sauer by having a decock only. They were accustomed to that with the Mark 25s and the Sig pistols, so they went with that on the Mark 24 Mod O. Now, H&K did a lot of testing on this. You're talking 24,000 rounds, both suppressed and unsuppressed, utilizing both standard 45 ball ammunition as well as plus P hollow points. And the durability of the pistol was absolutely incredible. They also did the bore obstruction testing. Any testing that you would say would be a military grade. A bore obstruction would be you would have a bullet caught in the barrel, and you would fire one behind it, and you would make sure that the pistol would still fire reliably and safely after that. Went through all the destructive testing and went through all the environmental testing. And it was proven to be as durable and as reliable as the Mark 23 was, but basically half the size. Now, when I look at this, I can definitely see, why they would go with it. This would be more along the lines of what the SOCOM operators would want, rather than, something that was just so big. I have to say I am a Mark 23 fan. This was brilliantly done. If you were to see the gun that Colt, you'll see a photograph of the one that Colt put in, and this knocked the hell right out of it. There was absolutely no way Colt was ever going to win it. This one here was a modern day pistol, modern day polymer materials, recoil reduction system in there to make it more durable, more reliable, make the frame last longer than a lot of these other steel ones. You just had tons of different options on here, and the durability, as I said, just was literally second to none. Now, for as far as the long haul is concerned, how would this compare to this in the long haul? I don't know. You start looking at 60, 70,000 rounds, which this has been known to go through. I don't know if this one has or not. The pistol has replaced it, and it's very well perceived. I do believe you're still going to see some of the HK USP45 Tacticals as well as the USP45 Tactical compact pistols. And you may even as well see some of the Mark 23s, but so far as I know, for most of the SEALs I've talked to, you will see them still using the P226s. But the ones who prefer the 45 auto, you're going to see one of these pistols. And right now, I probably think you're probably going to see more of the HK45Cs or the Mark 24 pistols than anything else. Now, when I tested this, I also tested it with a sound suppressor. And one thing about any HK pistol, they are right at home with the sound suppressors. These things work just as well with suppressors as they do without. And that's always been, I think, a big benefit of the HK system. I tend to fire a lot of them suppressed because this is just really, these guns are just really fun to shoot. Another benefit that was made with the HK45 over the USB, if you were to look at the bore axis, you look at how the distance is between the hand and the slide. If you were to look at it on the HK45 versus the USP type, you'll see that your bore axis is much higher on the USP versus the HK45. Well, by having it on a lower bore axis like this gives you more controllability. Again, it gives you a more reliable pistol, and it gives you a lot more follow-up shots as well because you have more control over the recoil. Now, as the pistol was adopted by SOCOM, it utilized a AAC suppressor and a Crimson Trace waterproof IR module. Now, the suppressor that I have on here is my Silencer Co. Osprey. I have no issue at all with AAC suppressors. I've just been using these Silencer Co. for several years now, and I just like them. They're very durable, they're very reliable, and they just work awfully well. And I like the fact that with the Osprey, I don't have to go out and get high sights because it sits low enough here where generally I don't need to get the higher profile sights. Now the Osprey 45 cans is 8 inches long. It's got a diameter of 1.30 by 1.75 inches, weighs 11.1 ounces. The material it's made out of is aluminum and stainless steel. The average decibel is about 131.3 decibels. MSRP about $918. These can be shot wet or dry. They work really, really well. And when we fire this, you're going to see us firing both with and without the sound suppressor on it. I'll talk a little about the ammunition before we get into the shooting. For quite some time, I've been testing out a lot of the SIG ammunition. I've tested it out in several different calibers. This was part of going for the XM17 program, as they wanted to have their own ammunition manufacturer. So SIG owns the company that manufactures the ammunition, but it's run independently. And they have a full line of ammunition, whether it be the Elite Performance ammunition, which is generally Full Metal Jacket or Practice, and then they have their V-Crown, and they also have some Match. So most of the ammunition that was shot through this pistol was the Elite Performance 45 Full Metal Jacket. The ammunition has been proven to be very reliable, very accurate. It's reasonably cost. I think SIG did a really good thing by going with their own ammunition manufacturer and offering a complete weapon system for SIG. But I decided I wanted to use this with the HK45 because I've just had so much good luck with it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take the MK24 Mod O or the HK45 compacted range. We're going to see how it shoots. I've probably fired about 500 rounds with this pistol, mostly with the SIG ball ammunition, but I also had some of the SIG jacketed hollow points, some of the Federal HST, and some other different kinds of hollow points, and this gun took everything. There was no malfunctions at all. For as far as durability and reliability, it's what you would come to expect from H&K. You know, it's a very easy pistol to maintain. We'll show you here how it comes apart. Move this sound suppressor, obviously, because you can't take the barrel off without it. Drop the magazine, ensure clear, and we're going to pull back so the slot lines up over the rear of the slide stop, and we're going to push in and pull out, and it's going to slide right off. Now, as you can see, the right side of the slide stop, or the ambi part, stays engaged. The recoil spring assembly, and you're going to see a plastic buffer on the recoil spring assembly, which protects the frame from getting all of the impact. You have a flat recoil spring, and the barrel pops right out. Now, these barrels are available threaded and unthreaded, but the MK24 utilizes a threaded barrel because SOCOM uses sound suppressors, but it is available in both ways. When you look at the inside of the slide, this is what HK is known for. It's the high-quality finish. You don't see machine marks. It's as smooth could be. Another interesting aspect of the HK45, it was the first fully made in the U.S. pistol. So it was sort of a milestone for H&K as well. The frame is durable as can be. I've used USP since they came out in the early 90s, around 93, 94, and I've never broke one. And I put a lot of rounds through them. I've had some of the different generations. Well, for as far as the USP 45, I did a previous review on the HK45 pistol, the full size, and I did mention the Mark 24 on there as well, just due to the fact I didn't have access to a Mark 24 or a compact pistol at that time. I was able to get one to do this review. But if you're interested in seeing more information on the original HK45 full-size pistol, we'll place that link as well. So reassembly, very simple. Drop in like so. Insert your recoil spring. Drop on the frame. Pull back to that location so that's lined up like so. Drop in. You're good to go. So that's it. That's the HK45 compact pistol, or the Mark 24 Mod O service pistol with the U.S. Navy and SOCOM. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you do, please click like, please subscribe, even better share, and please consider becoming a Patreon. We're a self-funded channel. Thank you very much.